All right, it's a special episode of the RSL Random Fan Podcast. We have a random fan just like you, Patrick. What's his last name?
Doty.
Doty. Want to make sure we get that right. That'd be embarrassing if we got his name wrong. He joins us. He's on a friend of mine from Big Soccer. That's an old school soccer board you should go check out. RSL forum on Big Soccer. Great content there, but even better on our episode. What do we talk about, Brennan?
We talk about RSL, the wins, the losses, the greats, the not so greats, and honestly, Patrick has some really good insight of what he thinks, and he seems like he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, it's a great episode. We love chatting with fans. So take the time to listen, and we appreciate you. Make sure you smash that like button, smash the subscribe button,
It's their
subscribe
duty.
button,
It's
and
their duty. They have to do it.
your duty. You have
Their
to
duty.
subscribe to our YouTube and every other social media outlet. But enjoy. All right, another episode of the RSL Random Fan Podcast. A very special, I can't express how very special this is. We have a random fan, Patrick. This is Doty. Is that right?
Oh, you're muted.
Where did you go, Patrick? You
Oh,
muted.
I was doing the kind thing of being on mute before we started. No, it's Patrick Doty. Doty's
Doty.
a new one. I've never heard that one.
Well,
Doty's usually what people say.
I'm so far away from it. I should have got closer before. My bifocals. Well, last name of
That's
goal, but
okay.
you can only imagine what we got.
That's true. Yeah, a lot of gobbles, I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
And I can't start an introduction without screwing it up. So there we go. We're good. We started terribly, and off we go. But I'm here. Tyler's out of town, and Brennan's joining us, and we're talking to Patrick, who is a wizard when it comes to soccer. He's the most knowledgeable fan I've talked to. I've enjoyed chatting with him on Big Soccer. Put a plug in there. Go sign up for Big Soccer if you like old school message boards.
True. If you want to get in a time machine and go back 20 years, it's your place.
So, Patrick, thank you for joining us. And as always, it seems like a silly question, but I always like to ask, are you a soccer fan?
I am. I grew up since I could walk. I was playing soccer, so I was blessed to have an older brother that had convinced my very American family to try out the sport, and I was able to go and do it from there on. So yeah, soccer every day of the week if I could. My wife is frustrated. There is zero off season in soccer, so there's always soccer on TV, right? And it's a good and a bad thing.
Is your wife not a soccer fan?
She wasn't before she met me.
Ooh.
And then she tolerates it. So
My wife wasn't either. And the only reason I ask is because now she is a soccer fan. She was checking the EPL table yesterday during church and pointing it out to me. It's like, oh,
it's a proud moment, I'm sure.
Brennan has some work to do, though, doesn't he?
Uh, Dude, my wife is a cheerleader. She loves teams. Like go team, go, and that's about as far as it goes. We're not to that point where I'm like, hey, you got to enjoy every hobby I have, But
No, keep it balance is good that way. Keep it that way.
yeah, she's always positive, so that makes me happy.
So,
Um,
go ahead, Brennan.
can I ask a question before you ask all your typical ones?
Mhm.
Hey, what's your favorite league to watch? Because it's all year round, but like, what's your go-to league?
So growing up, I fell in love with AC Milan. I'm wearing my AC Milan stuff. We were chatting about this before. I like the Italian league. It is not for everybody. It has its, stereotypical stuff about it of the diving and the whining and everything like that. But for me, it part of it's pulling on my heartstrings. I really like to watch it. And current iteration of it, there's nobody that's head and shoulders above everybody else. So it doesn't have those EPL and Bundesliga style where it's like, oh man, these teams, it doesn't matter, Bayern Munich's going to win every time. So it makes it a more fun competitive league to watch. And yeah, it's the right one for me.
They're very a lot more technical, like tactical. Like they're very more organized, and it's less
Yeah,
about that one player. I really like that
correct.
league.
Yeah, no, a lot of the players, a lot of the American players that have gone over there talk about that quite a bit, right? The slap on MLS is extremely physical, very demanding that way, whereas you go there, it's a lot more cerebral, mental style game and understanding the tactics of it. So.
Yeah, I love that. Sorry, Brandt.
Yes. Back to the boring questions. Is that where you want?
Ooh,
Back to those.
Do
I'm
those.
just curious. I had an interesting journey. I'm still on that journey to soccer, to the beautiful game. But tell me about how your family had. Were you a soccer family? You mentioned that. What was the dynamic? Were you like the black sheep in the neighborhood? How did that all? How interesting the way you put that.
No, it's a good question. So my aunt and uncle helped start a lot of like the West Side soccer stuff. They were by no means like the originators of it, but they were really big push into it. And so my dad, it was my dad's brother on that side, tied into it, grew up, we played it as a kid and stuff. I happened to be good. I'm not like amazing by any stretch of the imagination, but I was good enough to start making onto these more competitive teams and those type of things, right? And so that exposed me to different people, different cultures, those type of things. So a lot of my adolescence and my youth was traveling around, going to different soccer tournaments, and that's how my family would spend their vacations, our holidays, and those type of things. We'd go down to Orlando and play in something, or Dallas, or San Diego, right? And so that really helped groom me into what it was. And so was I a black sheep? Yeah. I mean, soccer still fights that a little bit. It's getting more and more accepted, which is cool. But yeah, as a kid, luckily I'm like 6'1", 6'2", and 200 pounds. So people didn't mess with me too much. But like, yeah, I got asked a lot, like, why aren't you on the football team? Why aren't you playing basketball? I was like, I suck at those. So we're not going to do that.
That's awesome. What position did you play?
Straight in the middle of the park, either a center mid or a center back.
Oh,
Being a little bit bigger, soccer doesn't tend to bring in too many big players, especially in the U.S., right? So had a little bit more demanding size and could throw that around, especially when you're out there playing Messi-sized dudes, and it's just like putting a hand on their head and saying, "Go away." So
that's fantastic.
yeah.
I like that. So, when did you? Sorry.
No, okay, hold on. I like that. That's what.
I had so many things going through my head. What's going to be
Mr.
appropriate?
Host, you know what's so funny? Okay, let's break the ice here. He's fangirling over you so hard right now,
No.
Patrick. You have
That's
no
not good.
idea. Oh, this is fantastic. I love it when he gets embarrassed. Like it's so
Oh, you're silly.
it's adorable, man. So, anyways,
Well,
next question. Let's get.
No,
into
I just saying there's a bunch of Tyler's always talking. Oh, I'm kind of a big guy. That was the first thing that went through my head because he's always talking about how he's 6'1", 6 whatever, and
yeah, you got in front of people. And he's an authority out there. An authority.
Oh, yeah, he was the enforcer. Were you the enforcer?
I love to run my mouth. I still hold. I think I hold a state record in high school for most red cards in a season because I had a mouth of a sailor, and that doesn't fly over too well in this community. So, but yeah, no, I've cleaned a lot of that up since. Brent can probably challenge me on some of that, but I try and behave myself a little bit more. I was a physical player. I'm not proud to say it, but I did like break a couple guys. Like I broke one dude's ankle in Vegas one time on the nasty tackle and stuff. So I was that guy. I was when Beckerman played, I was like, yeah, that's what I want.
That's him. Yeah.
Dreadlocks? Did you go the full?
I could not pull off dreadlocks. No, not that I don't think Kyle could either, but nobody was going to mess with Kyle.
We talked a little bit about your. I do like to know: is it just AC Milan, or what about your overall soccer fandom?
So my older brother that I alluded to before that kind of like introduced the sport to the family, he was a Manchester United fan. A lot of that was like, that was the only thing on TV, right? And yeah, Brennan, I realize it's really exciting, but it also really sucks lately.
Hey, they just
really
won 4-1 against the Wolves.
All they had to do was play the worst EPL team.
Hey.
Has that guy cut his hair yet? Has that kid cut his hair
He's
yet?
never going to.
Four more
We are
games.
not going to win 5 straight games. It's just not going to happen.
So true.
No, but like, and that was you mentioned earlier, Brant, like having a little bit of a rebellious streak in you. That was me as a kid. I was like, yeah, the family's team is united, but I want something else. And AC Milan came along. They had, my opinion, the best defender that's ever played the game in Paolo Maldini, and I was like, no, that's me. That's what I want. And so I was breaking the mold in that regard, and then fell in love with the team. And yeah, since then it's just been painful, but it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So then,
so sorry.
What about Major League Soccer? Obviously you're not Real Salt Lake fan. So Did you have other teams before Real Salt Lake, or are you old enough to have another team before, or did RSL come right at the perfect time for you?
I haven't revealed my age yet here, and some people say I look older than I do, and some people I look younger. RSL came when I was in high school, and so I had watched Major League Soccer growing up, and the Galaxy were always kind of fun to watch, especially with the really loud jerseys and stuff, right? And San Jose. And when RSL got announced, my older brother got season tickets. We went out to the games, went up to that U.S. Costa Rica game, all those things. It was a lot of fun. In fact, when I was a those first years at Rice Eccles, they would host high school soccer games, just regular season games. They didn't do the playoffs like they do now. And we got to go play on Rice Eccles, which was god awful turf. You should never have played soccer there. But it was a really cool experience to play before. I think they played Columbus right after we had played. Really cool experience to go play on the field and do everything that way. But yeah, ever since how long have I been a season ticket holder? I think about 7 or 8 years now, right before COVID, and traveled with the team a bunch to the other things. In '05, it was like, yeah, let's fall in love with this team. And those first few years were obviously very rough. um, we had glimmers of like, oh, like that's a good player and that's fun, and then just everything didn't really click. But it was fun, and RSL had a way of growing on you after time, and that '09 team really solidified it.
Yeah, the Rice Eccles was a terrible place to watch the game. The
Yeah.
only benefit was the ability to sit wherever the heck you wanted, which we did a lot. We would get the passes. We got season tickets in '08, but we would just go up there and just sit on one side and then move to the other side wherever there was shade and get close. So it
Yeah.
was, but yeah, I would have, man, playing on that must have been terrible. But um, other questions, Brendan?
I like it. I like that.
I do too.
I concur as well. Wait, what school did you play for in high school?
Riverton,
Oh,
Silver
Riverton.
Wolves. Yeah,
That's unfortunate.
I
Did
know.
you guys win state at
Not
all?
when I was there. My 4 years there, we hadn't made the playoffs before I got out there. Granted, we were a school of like what, 10 years old at that point? Not even that, like maybe 5 years old. So they've won state since. I'm still good friends with the head coach there. I was really happy for them, but no, we sucked when I played there. We couldn't get past the second round.
What year did you graduate?
'07.
Oh, 07?
Yeah.
That's right. Okay. So we're pretty close in age then. I wish I got to play soccer in high school. That would have been fun, you know?
It was. The soccer was not good soccer. I mean, it's kind of like the trade-off in a more um like bigger exaggerated way of like national team versus club, where it's like this is the talent you have and you have to figure out a way to play, and a lot of that turns into just really ugly lump it forward, get a bunch of big dudes around the ball, right, in high school. But playing for your local community, just like with the national team, it makes it really cool that way. So
No. Well, what do you enjoy? Like, where actually do you see the MLS growing? Because it's always been a physical league, and I feel like that's because the talent hasn't really been there. So to like make up for things that others can do, we just get right next to somebody. Like, what do you feel is like the missing piece for MLS?
I would take it a step back and say like soccer in the US has an identity crisis, and that's not like a revolutionary thing to say that at all, but like MLS is an expression of that, right? Where you have a lot of different clubs that are trying to execute it different ways, and some are successful and some are like RSL and I think lack an identity, right? And so the league as a whole struggles with that because you have clubs that are trying vastly different things within the ecosystem. You've got the Miami that's like, we're going to bring in one of the best players ever, surrounded by a bunch of talented players, and that's how we're going to play. Whereas then you get an LAFC that kind of does it their way. You get a Columbus and a Cincinnati, and that's cool. But to me, where MLS needs to go, and this is not crazy to say, like you got to release the cap a little bit more to bring in more talent. And then I think U.S. soccer needs to have a better culture of like this is the type of soccer we want to build into and try and build across with that, right? Otherwise, it's kind of just we're just chasing of whatever's the most recent hot thing out there. And yeah, the messy stuff and the Miami stuff, it turns eyeballs, but how much is the longevity of it, right? Like what do we get out of that? So.
Do you think that's going to be a two-peat, or do you think they're kind of a one and done? Miami.
It's a good question. Next season's going to be really weird with the break in between. So I think they'll lose steam and or be able to gain steam thereafter. The West was, in my opinion, pretty down this year, so they didn't really have a top end competitor to balance out on the other side. And MLS, just like any other American league, one season to the next, teams can drastically change their, their profile and their talent. So I don't think they'll repeat. That's really hard to do in this league. I think it'll be somebody from the West Coast, honestly.
Bring it home to the West.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts on the MLS season in general this year? Since
RSL was frustrating this year. If we're going to go local side on it, I get the ownership changes and everything make it hard to do a lot of things, but I do personally, I feel like it's really easy to make excuses as opposed to like find solutions, right? I think the way they set up the team to start the season was a massive failure, bringing in journeyman forwards, and even that's a stretch. Like bringing in the front line that they brought in after losing what they had lost, surrounding the talent with what they did, it wasn't good enough. And then through the season, it just felt like, okay, well, let's put a band-aid on that, put a band-aid on that. I'm optimistic with some of the players they brought in towards the end, right? But you're always playing the same game, and the schedule change theoretically fixes it of just like, well, you bring somebody in the summer, they need time to integrate, so then you got to wait, and then the team turns over a little bit, and coaching staff changes, right? And it never feels like you're in the right spot. So I didn't think RSL did great last year. It was a lot of games I would go to, and I would leave bored, and that's the worst thing, right? Like at the end of the day, there should be an entertainment value to it, and I would leave and just be like, why? That was not worth my time. That was, it struggled.
Yeah, well said.
well, overall, since we jumped right to the end,
Oh, I'm sorry. Was there more questions?
we had the whole build up.
We can bounce around. Let's do it.
Yeah, let's bounce. We're just gonna go crazy. We'll bounce all over the place.
I'm gonna shut up. I'll just be the funny guy.
No. You no.
You guys have a great editing staff after, right? That like puts all the stuff together.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We edit everything. It's
When was the last time we edited?
So let's talk about the club in general. RSL overall. This season I was hard pressed to give him more than a 4 or 5. I mean, it was really bad all around, and I was kind of frustrated that Cabral played so well. Only in the fact that if he hadn't played so well, maybe RSL would have been forced to make some drastic decisions. So, where are you in the whole thought process of the team construction, Pablo? What do you mentioned that there's a few bright spots, but overall, where were you disappointed? Give us your hard thoughts there, Patrick.
I mean, you got to start in this league. You can't miss on DPs, right? And so missing on Gonçalves in the way they have, I don't think he's a bad player. He's just not the right player, right? He's a good, and again, a lot of people said this. He's a good like second, third, fourth player on your team that you can play through and have those type of things. But the thought was he's going to be the guy, and that puts you on a bad start because you just cannot recover from how much money you have to invest on a DP, right? Then you compound that with like he doesn't even want to do. Brandt, you always say this really well. Like he doesn't put the effort in, right? Like it's one thing to have talent and like not fully realize it. It's another to not even like care, right? Like you get this sense from him when he's on the field of just like going through the motions, making sure he isn't injured, so when the next window opens up, he can try and convince a sell. And that's hard when you're an RSL that used to have an identity of like we might not be as talented as you, but we're gonna work harder than you, and you're gonna leave here like if you earned a point, you earned that point, right? And that's the Fortress hasn't been that way in years, right? And I don't know if that's as much to do with Pablo and his mentality, but the club's lost that. And Pablo's the guy that you got to blame for lack of somebody else being there. So where I'm frustrated with definitely Diogo. I thought the holding mid play was like what we thought going into the season versus where it was kind of a miss. There's extremely talented players there. You got your Meccanelli that should have had the armband the whole time, but then it kind of like disappeared. That was weird. You've got Ruiz, who always shows flashes of like this dude could be the best center mid in the league, and then he like breaks his back or something. The guy always has like he doesn't have little injuries. He always has like injuries that's like, okay, he's gonna be missing for like a third of the season at least, right? I really think Ojeda is an extremely talented player that we're lucky to have. But he has to mask for a lot of different things. And you go back to the center backs. I mean, for me, and this hit on it earlier, where I played was in the middle of the park, right? And if you don't execute in the middle of the park, it's like your spine. You can only cover that up with so many talented players on the wings on the outside, right? So if you miss through that spine, you're going to fill it every game. And the center back play really highlighted that this year, right? Where Glad has on and off games. I'm a fan of Glad, but I think the money that's invested into him, you're like, you really have to perform the whole season, right? Vera, if you put in his price point with Vera, you start to understand it. But he also, one of the best things about Vera when he first got here was he had that Olave streak in him where it was like, I can be a mean mofo and go out there. And they seem to have coached that out of him. And it also pulled a lot of like his personality out of him too. He feels like a shell of himself this last season. It was unfortunate. I'll take a red card or two in the season if it means we're going to get the Vera that goes out there and intimidates players, right? So I don't know. I don't know if there's anybody in particular in there that you guys feel differently on, but that's to me, that's where the weaknesses of the team has been. And it really hurt.
I feel like
What were
we're
his-
pretty good in that. Sorry, I
Yeah.
wanted to keep going on this topic if that's all right.
Please go. Yeah, please do. Please.
Yeah. So the center of the whole RSL team was kind of like you were saying, is kind of the spine that wasn't there. What do you feel about Caliscan coming in and winning the heart of Pablo? I mean, I feel like he was successful, but he wasn't that piece that, made things improve,
Oh, Aliscan was a weird one for me because it was weird he was on the team at all. Because given where he was, got cut from Portland and stuff, I admire the like, hey, this guy's got a chip on his shoulder. Let's bring him in. And then he went and won the right back spot. I personally wasn't like a big fan of him there to start. But by the time midway through the season, he scored that ridiculously good goal. I was like, no, he's the right back. And it was weird for the club to look at that and go, cool, let's go buy a replacement for right back, right? Like you had it figured out. Was he the long-term solution? No, I don't think Yedlin is either. But it was weird because then it threw off part of the team. They didn't have to, right? It was you had the answer there. If you wanted something different, I think they needed a better right winger, not a better right back. You needed to figure out something that way, right? I'm a huge fan of Xavier Gozo. I was lucky enough to coach against the kid. My nephew is the same age as him, and it was obvious from the time that kid was like 7 or 8 that he was just different. It was like, no, he's gonna go do something great. So it was awesome to see him, go out there and take his opportunity this year. But again, for Caliscan, it's just weird that they were like, we have an answer. Okay, never mind. We're going to shift him. And Pablo was so enamored with him. I've played for coaches like that are like, no, it doesn't matter where you're playing. You're my first name on the team sheet. And that's what it felt like with Caliscan. It's like, we're just going to find a spot for him. Doesn't matter where.
Yeah. No, that's a really good point. It was frustrating. I wish there was more like somebody around Pablo going like, hey, that's cool and all, but like this guy was doing better. Like Mecca was fantastic. Like, why can't we just keep him there?
Yeah, and it's weird. I can only imagine, like, I feel bad for a guy like a Meccanelli because you start the season wearing the armband after just, 2 or 3 seasons, if that. That's a massive jump, a really big, nod from the manager, from the staff of, like, we really trust in you. And then to lose that, not to some amazing, like, well, we went and spent a couple million on this holding mid that we're going to come in. It's like, no, we brought in this guy that was playing right back, and now he's going to take your spot. And then you're going to fill in for him when he can't play right back. That had to wreck confidence, right? Like these guys are still human beings out there. That's got to be really hard to process. And I think it's why Emeka was kind of weird towards the end of the season. And something's obviously out there because I've never seen as many articles as there are about Emeka and Ellie wanting to leave for RSL players in the past, right? And so something broke in the locker room with that one. That's unfortunate.
What are your thoughts on that, then, the chemistry? Because for me, it's the talk is always about how Pablo is this player's coach, and he's this motivator, and he develops players. And I just don't know that I see that. You can't have. Yes, they drafted a McAnally, and he saw something and he played him, and then he goes around and then he sends a grenade in there and blows him up, and then he there was a great point we talked about before that wasn't mine, but Trevor from Wasatch Sentinels, like, Pablo just finds players to fit where he needs people to play instead of coaching them up and asking a Nelly to, hey, we need you to either sit back farther or you need to turn and go forward. Because Anelli was doing a great job. Like he said in the preseason, he'd take the ball, turn and quick and go forward because RSL loves to just pass the ball backwards.
Yeah.
So my thoughts with Pablo, I was more positive about Pablo starting the season, and I cannot wait. Honestly, I can't not wait for the Pablo Mastroeni's era to end. And that's, we'll see how it changes in the offseason. But
No,
man,
I'm old enough of a fan to remember when Pablo was like a villain here, right? So it took me multiple years to get comfortable with like, yeah, that's our coach. I mean, it wouldn't be apples to apples, but like if Nick Raimondo was managing Colorado, I think a lot of their fans would be like, this is weird. Like, we don't like that guy. He's the reason we lost a lot of games, right? And Pablo was that for us early on. So it was hard for me to get used to that. Um, I think he's a good coach. I don't think he's a great coach. And a lot of those style coaches, when their contract runs up, more mature clubs go, thank you for your service. We had some good time, and you part ways. Then there's no animosity. You don't have to term them. You're not paying multiple coaches, right? And I thought the Millers, or I was hoping the Millers would look at that as an opportunity to be like, cool, now we can put our stamp on it, right? And move forward. To retain them was kind of, it was the easy thing to do, right? It was just like, well, we know what we're probably going to get with Pablo. There's a floor that you have with Pablo. Granted, this year it felt like we somehow snuck below it, but like there's a floor with him that with what his teams are going to be. But it feels like there's an artificial ceiling that's built into it as well, with the exception of last year when we had that flash in the pan of like, hey, we have some really exciting talent out there. And Pablo just, as any good coach will tell you, he just didn't, he had to stay out of the way, right? Like just let the talented players do their thing. Maybe he should have gotten in the way of something that happened in the locker rooms. I don't know what happened with Chicho, but something messed up happened there, obviously, that it really derailed everything. And it's unfortunate because you brought up the point of like he's a player's coach. You can see that his players, for the most part, like playing for him. There's not too much obvious body language stuff and frustration with him, and that X dog thing exists to a point, but he doesn't have the other side of it. And to me, it was very telling that they replaced his entire coaching staff around him because they knew like we're missing guidance, right? Like it's one thing to be out there cheering of like, yeah, you guys got to fight, you got to fight. But if you're doing that for 34 games, it's like, hey, when are we going to talk about how we're supposed to, like if I go here and he goes there, what happens next? And he's like, you try harder. And it's like, no, that's not an answer, right?
Oh, dude, when he said we're going to kick the ball harder, we're going to push harder. Like, I was like, oh, dude, he's lost the plot, man.
I mean, I don't know how you guys. I would have stood up and walked out after that first LA game when Brandt, you asked him, and he's like, "We're gonna do the exact same game plan." It was like, "I'm sorry, what?" Like,
and the exact same scoreline too. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's like they still have Sun and Bouanga on the other team, right? Like, that's not gonna work. So,
well, he wasn't going to stop till everybody got a hat trick on us. Remotely.
Nah, and that like at some points, and what I struggle with this club is there's a lot of what dishonesty is a pretty aggressive word, but there's some gaslighting. That's even stronger words. Maybe that's a poor choice of words too. But like, there's this line that they sell us of like we're the same club we were from '09 to 13, and it's not, right? Like that club had an identity, and you knew what you were going to get when you showed up to games. It wasn't always great. I don't like tiki-taka soccer personally, so I'd go to those games sometimes and be like, dear God, we're just going to pass the ball to death today and win 1-0. But we did win, right? And winning covers a lot of cracks. With this team, you show up some days and it's like, oh, we're going to go balls to the wall and be really fun to watch. And others, like you said, we're just going to pass the ball sideways and backwards, and Justin Glad's going to have like 3,000 touches somehow, and I'm just going to sit there and be like, what are we doing today, right? Like, what is the objective?
Yeah, I think for me, by the end of the season, it just felt like the hypocrisy. Another strong word, and I think it started at the end of last season with the Chicho thing, which is probably going to be an anchor for a long time. He obviously something went wrong, and you have a situation where this guy does something that gets himself suspended for 4 games, misses the All-Star game, and yet he's allowed to continue to be the captain, somehow trying to keep his price up so that you can, not lose as much money as you did lose with him at the end of the season. And then you turn around this season, you give a straight up great kid the armband, and then you yank it away from him. So, and then you all continue to allow your highest paid player to wander around there and cashing checks, like you said. So,
Yeah.
That's the part that really bothered me. You can't say on one hand that you have all these mantras and this is what you live by, and then allow these other things to go through. And I think gaslighting is probably the best way to put it. So, and I don't think necessarily that Pablo's not a bad coach, but there's just something missing. And I agree with you there. He's a good coach. And
Yeah.
you mentioned you have some coaching. Do you
Correct.
still coach? What's that like?
I coach my 10-year-old son's rec team right now. That's about what I can handle. I used to have, so I have my national D license and Y license, which is focused on youth coaching. I really love coaching kids from the age of 6, 7-ish, somewhere in there. I did not mean that to be
Oh,
big,
buddy.
but geez, I know that was great. Up to like age 13, right? Like that's the age when you fall in love with the game. You're teaching technical aspects, those type of things. I really enjoy that. So I've coached for some of the clubs out here on the west side. Absolutely love it. Paying back to the sports the way I view it. Giving back what it was able to give me for a while, and it's really cool to be an influence in those kids' lives, and do those type of things. So I know Brennan, you do the same thing with kids. There's nothing quite like that. It's really fun.
Especially when they pay attention. I mean, if they pay attention,
Well,
it's like the best thing on the planet.
yeah.
So
Nah,
fun.
my older brother and I, and half the reason I coached was just to hang out with my older brother. I'll be honest with you. It was a good excuse. But we went out to New Jersey for a week. Went out to the Red Bull Stadium and got our national Y licenses. And the biggest thing we walked away with that is like soccer's supposed to be fun, and I think we lose sight of that a lot, right? Like the whole point of this is like the kids are supposed to have a good time, and it's a kids game that a lot of adults get in the way of and ruin in some aspects. But if you're not able to, if the kids are not paying attention, or if they're like dragging their feet and giving you a look of like, God, we're doing this again, you obviously haven't designed a fun training session or something like that, and you got to change it.
It's hard, we were involved with youth soccer for a long time until our kids got old, or I got old, on the other. But now we're into the second generation. Brandon's son is playing, and so we're into the rec league over there. And those games would be so much fun if there weren't parents. If they could just come, drop the kids off, and if you cannot behave yourself, don't come to the game. It's just really frustrating. Even the coaches, they're U5,
No,
right?
no, don't name names
I'm not.
because I know who you're going to talk about.
And there was this coach, and there's just like just taking it so serious. And I'm like, they're 5 freaking years old. It's not about you. Yes, we can see all you great footwork, coach. You're doing an amazing job over there. You're really impressing us all. And yet, it's like, oh, just missing the whole point of it. But
Yeah,
at
no,
least, I guess, on the other side of it, at least they're there, right?
no,
And
exactly.
certainly a better coach than I could ever be. But I went through that process. You get older and you realize, man, the most important thing is for these kids to have fun and want to come back, because they lose a ton of kids around 12, 13 because it just becomes so awful, which leads into another section. You have been involved in reffing.
Correct.
Correct. How's that going? You still doing that? To share your horrible experience of being a youth ref.
So I mentioned it before. I hold state records for my mouth, so a lot of it's karmic. Like what goes around comes around. I deserve a lot of what I get. But yeah, I challenge anybody who's really struggles when they watch the game with like a ref who makes a call, and they're human beings. They're going to make mistakes, right? If you go do analysis of the games, they get 90+% of these decisions right, and some of them that you're like, how did you see that guy was 3 inches offsides from 100 yards away, right? Like really crazy stuff that they can pull off. For me, because I was a decent player, they kind of fast tracked on the referee side to where I could do higher level games. I've refed some of the academy games and those type of things. And when you're in the stands, the game looks kind of fast. When you're out there in the middle of those dudes playing, and like the U19s and the U17s, these guys are bigger than me sometimes. You're suddenly like, oh God, like there's a lot of stuff happening and moving around out there, and you lose sight of it quickly. So I'm sympathetic to refs. I've met Alan Chapman out here. I don't think he's the best ref. I'm not going to argue that, but I think he does really well. And him not doing a lot of RSL games, I think, is just for his own safety and for the club safety. But it is what it is. I think they do a really hard, a really, really hard job. Get scrutiny for every decision they make, even when it's the right decision. Then they get criticized of like, well, you didn't make that last time, and it's like, so we agree this is the right one. We just didn't like how it was before, right? Like, it's a lot of stuff on it. And this is maybe Patrick trying to be like more Pablo-esque and philosophical, but there's things you can control. The referee is not one of those things. And so whenever I coach my kids, I ask them what makes a foul, and they'll start giving you answers of like, oh, you Sally kicks John or those type of things. Like, no, what makes a foul a foul? And for me, it's the one thing is the whistle, right? If the ref blows the whistle, it is now a foul. Doesn't matter what you thought about it. You got to move on. So it's trying to frame things like that with the kids. And
Ooh.
I think fans would do well to remember that sometimes. The ref you suck chant personally always just gives me a little bit of cringe, even if it was like, yeah, that was a bad decision, right? Like, it's just like, come on, guys. Like, this isn't going to help anybody.
I want them to be more creative. I mean, we could talk about the fan experience because, my favorite is you don't know what you're doing, but you have to use an English accent when you do it. 'Cause I
Right.
think that would be a lot more cathartic than the ref you suck. Because you see these little kids yelling ref you suck, and it's like, oh, come on. And even
Yeah.
like with VAR, it's amazing. The ARs are just amazing.
Yeah.
They get those
It's a hard
offsides.
job. It's a
Yeah.
very hard job to go execute. When I refed an assistant referee, I hated doing that more than being a center because assistant referees, it's like an uncomfortable body movement that you have to do to like stay square with the field and watching multiple things. Like all those referees end up with their eyes looking different directions by the end of their careers because it hurts so bad that way. It's a crazy thing that they pull off. Granted, in the modern game, you start to argue like, do you need those guys? But yeah, I'm respectful of it. They make mistakes. I get pissed still at times, right? When I'm like, no, that should have been a red card and it was a yellow card or vice versa and those type of things. But Grant knows this. I used to do, and this was when Patrick had way too much time at his day job and would spend too much time on big soccer. I used to do like a tracker of like, hey, did we feel like the ref cost us points in that game? Or do we feel like we potentially earned points? And those games, fans are very hesitant to like talk about, right? Where we're like, hey, we were a beneficiary here. We all realize that, right? Like, get the point and get out of town. And I cannot remember a season where that number wasn't around zero at the end of the season, right? Like plus minus through it. It always balances out and people get frustrated. I get that. And it feels like this season RSL was, on the short end of a lot of stuff early in the season. I get that. That also should have been a rallying cry for Pablo, right? And I think he tapped into it a little bit. It was like, hey, this is the us versus them mentality that you're great at. Lean into that and don't make an excuse.
Do you have a favorite ref? I mean, we were we somehow were very partial to Tori Penso for a minute,
So
but
dirty.
then she's had some howlers against Real Salt Lake, and I don't know if you remember Chilowitz,
Yep.
the guy that Anyway, he's over in England, reffing in England now, so he's actually reffed Crawley games, and MLS that game up a couple of times for Crawley, but.
Now, favorite ref is a hard. I mean, I'm drawing a blank on his name. He's like the most famous ref, Italian guy. I can see him. Like, he was really good. Yeah.
Macho?
And what made him so good, and what I think is the key with a lot of good referees when you watch them on the field, is they have personality with players. They don't care about the fans, right? Like we're paying to be there. We don't have to be there, right? Like the players are the ones that have to be there with the referee. And when you build that rapport, it pays off, and you see that there's referees in this league that are very well regarded by players, and there's others that as soon as they're on the field, you can tell the players like, God, we got to deal with this guy again, right? I think the Pensos do a decent job with that. There's others, I'm drawing a blank on who it would be. Like Marufo was notorious for just not being a good players coach or referee, right? Like it was just like, God, it's so confrontational constantly.
What about Ted Uncle?
Is
like
it his
that guy?
daughter? Yeah, I think it's his daughter that's now on like the CBS stuff. So every time her name pops
His
up,
wife.
I got to laugh. Or it's his
It's
wife.
his
That's what it
wife.
is. It's his wife, and she's decent on that. I didn't like Uncle personally, but I was also just like, he's a ref, right? Like it is what it is.
And he was the reason that I started asking people if they like soccer because the guy wasn't a soccer fan.
Yeah,
He was a baseball guy that ended up reffing and fell into Major League Soccer as an official. So thought
And
that was fascinating.
that was very eye-opening to me when I was, working with a lot of these referees. How many of them have experience to soccer and how many of them don't? And explaining to a referee, like one of the ones that always irritated me as a player is like the interfering with a goalie on a potential offside, right? And they're like, well, if he's just standing there, it's not offside, even if he's like right in front of the goalie. And it's like, no, like the goalie has to think that guy's going to touch the ball. He has to, change his stuff on it. And they've modernized the rules on it. But there were so many times where they would even be like, oh, if he dummies it, it's fine. I was like, what do you mean if he dummies it, it's fine? Like he's making a play. Like it was very enlightening of just what they understood of the game. Like, and we could go off on this for an hour. Like the handball law and what it's turned into ignores like human motion completely. Like nobody runs with their arms tucked at their side, and if you're shifting sideways, everybody's arms goes up, right? But then suddenly it's like he's making himself bigger. It's like no, he's like go
He's
jump,
falling.
see what happens. Yeah, exactly. Like it's wild to me, and I've heard a lot of people talk about like change that to be like, well, if it's on frame, yeah, it's a penalty. But if it's like on the corner of the box and I hit the guy's arm, just do a free kick from right there. And those are fun as hell, right? Like if you do indirect free kicks inside the box, let's do that. Like make the game more fun.
That's one of my favorite calls is when they're the goalie picks it up and they get the free kick from 3 feet out.
It's awesome.
It's
Yeah.
chaos.
Exactly. More of that.
So, well, so let's talk about this team. What moving forward? What do you want them to do?
What do I want him to do? If I had a magic wand, in another life, my dream job was to be a general manager. And then I like look at how people, especially like me, talked about a guy like Elliot Fall, and I was like, God, I never want anything to do with that.
And then you miss Elliot Fall.
I don't know if I'd go that far. Elliot Fall is, and I know I'm in the minority on this. I thought he was a good general manager. He wasn't great. Granted, he had to fill the shoes, and him and a couple others of like Garth Lagerwey, who I revere as like that's what a general manager should look like, right? Like he still missed on some, but he had an idea. And I think that's to answer your question, the long-winded way of getting around to this. There used to be like this group of guys that ran the club, right? You had Kreis, Lagerwey, and Bill Manning, right? And they had an identity. Did not agree with them all the time. There were flaws in the structure they built and everything, but there was a commitment to say, this is what the club's going to be, and this is how we're steering it, right? When Deloy Hansen came in, a lot of that became, let's run this like a private equity arm of my real estate firm, right? And that is what it was. But now that excuse is gone to then, okay, let's get adults back in the room that want to run this thing appropriately. So what I want to see from RSL in 26 is identity, right? Like I want to show up to a game and know we're going to do this, right? I don't know if I trust Pablo to be the guy who executes on that, but maybe they surround him with enough coaching staff because they have to at least fill one position to build that. There were times last year and the year before it was like, no, we're building into something, right? It was, we're going to ping the ball wide to Gomez. We're going to get runners off the ball. We're going to find Chicho in the box, right? Like you knew what you were going to get with RSL. That makes it easier to counter against them, but you at least knew what you were going to get with them, and you knew the brand of soccer you were going to show up and watch. So that's my biggest hope is we build an identity again.
What players on the team do you want to keep, and what players on the team are you satisfied if they took a venture elsewhere?
Put your general manager hat on. Be bold.
Yeah, be bold.
Be bold,
also, I mean, it's just a podcast, so
it's just a podcast. Nobody cares. If there was a way to move Gonçalves, I love spending other people's money. In my line of work, I get to spend all the like revenue generating side of the business is money. I'm a compliance officer, so I love it. I would sell Gonçalves and I would take the loss because I think the team is better in the long run because of it. Otherwise, you're sacrificing what the club has acknowledged should be an extremely big year in this club's existence by having a weight around your neck that is so costly, right? The ticket sales from this Lionel Messi game that we're supposed to all be excited about, right? Like that makes up for it already. Just do that. I would shop Justin Glad just because I think a change there would be good. I think he's a good player and I think he's a good steward. And if he's a one club man, that's a cool thing in the long run. But this is the window, probably the last one that you can get away with it. Then you're having to look around. Rafa Cabral has to be here. You got to probably keep Yedlin. It sounds like he's on a long-term contract and you invested too much into him, right? I like Ojeda through the middle. I think if he performs well at the World Cup, he and Diego Luna are the guys that are going to get sold. Luna gets a lot of that shine, but I think Ojeda is one that really will turn eyeballs with the way the guy plays and that he has European experience that people can tie back into, right? So I don't know if I'm answering your question, but to me, the biggest thing this club has to do is show that it's like, no, we're willing to put our money where our mouth is and move on from Gonçalves. And if that means they sell on the contract or whatever they have to do to eat a loss, you do it.
What about style of play? You mentioned you don't like you just want to lump them forward, or you don't want them to mess around, ticky-tacky with the ball. So what do you want to see them do?
This pains me to say, but some of the best, most fun soccer to watch was Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool, right? Like hard rock soccer. And yeah, it sucked, but it was like I couldn't not watch it and be like, this is fun, right? Like, this is fun to watch. We're open, we're countering on stuff, we're doing those type of things. I would love that. And I think this team, if you look at the roster, is extremely close to being able to do that.
What does that look like? I mean, you guys have a better idea when you say what they did. I'm just watching, but is it the formation? Are they just trying to counter? Are they sitting back? They possessing the ball? What are they doing?
So, and I've ranted on this before, where you draw the X's and O's on the paper doesn't matter as much to me as the instruction you're giving the players. You can play a 5-3-2 that's extremely aggressive, or like it looks on paper, like you're sitting in a low block and you're defending, right? I think this team makes the most sense with the way Pablo loves to do wing plays. You do 3 in the back, 4 or 5 across the middle, depending on how you want to draw those X's, and then 3 up top, right? And you play more in transition. I know Pablo will not do this. The man hates transition, like most coaches do. Most coaches hate it because it just opens the game up more than you're comfortable with. Like he's more aligned to that Pep style of coaching of like, we control this, right? Like we control the game, we control our destiny, which is great for him. But I love, again, like the Jurgen style where it's like, no, it's organized chaos that we're going to go out there and the game's going to be fun. Sometimes it's going to turn into a track meet. And when I coached, I would get accused of that, of like, hey, you're opening up the game way more than maybe we could or should. But I was like, no, it's more fun to play that way too, right? Like, and maybe that's just me being selfish, but like being in the middle and just moving the ball side to side, I got bored as hell doing that. I was just like, this is dumb. I want to ping a 30-yard ball into the channel, and we're going to open up our legs and we're going to start sprinting, right? So 3-4-3, 3-5-2, however you draw that, you give Luna free reign to do what he wants essentially in that, right? Like, do I love that he learned how to defend really well and those type of things? Yeah, but if you get him higher up the pitch, like you've seen with the national team, he wins the ball in the final third as opposed to the middle third, and better things happen, right? Gozo, the same thing. I think that fits Olatunji a little bit better with what he wants to do. I don't know how you fit Cruz into the thing, if he's rotation piece, whatever. But the center mids, Nelly's built for that, right? Like you've talked about before, he's a progressive player. He wants to get the ball and he wants to drive forward. You put Ojeda behind him, you build in some shape around it, and it looks really good.
Oh, music to my ears, man. That's like, I've been wanting a 3-5-2 for so long now. Like, I love an aggressive 3-5-2.
Yeah, I'll take this again. This is just me personally. I would rather lose a game like 4-3 than 1-0, right? Like, and I did not like Petke, but when he would talk about that, I was like, yeah, dude, like, let's go out there and have some fun, right? Like, the guy was a mess in other parts of his life, but at least in that part, I was like, yeah, let's go do something.
Well, it's so funny when like Pablo talks about all these things that you can't control, like all the uncontrollables, moments, all this mumbo jumbo. And then you bring up the fact that he's so scared about transition play. Yep. And it's like the ones that accept transition play and just involved in the chaos have more success because that risk reward ratio is so much higher. This whole we like to possess the ball and be defensive with it didn't make any sense at all. And it's like, dude, you gotta move the ball forward, and it's gonna come back. It's not a panic thing. It's it's soccer. It goes this way and then it goes this way and then it goes this way, blah 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 blah. Just open it up, do something with it. Don't just send it up the side and then send it into Krylock so he can break his back. You know what I mean?
No, and you talk about players like that. You bring Aaron Herrera back. If we could do a switch for Herrera versus Yedlin, I think it makes way more sense for the club. Same thing with Lennon, but I think those ships have sailed, right? Like there were some burned bridges there probably, but it's funny to see the players that used to be at this club with where the club is now, and you're like, you kept the wrong ones around, right? Like you should have kept them around.
Yeah, Brooks Lennon would be good on that right side, and Aaron Herrera, they were both right side.
Yeah.
Well, there's always Andrew Brody. He's a free agent.
I like Tyler. He served a purpose, right? Like no means is that man a starting player in MLS, but and this is what's funny in MLS versus other leagues, and other leagues fall victim of this too. Like roster spots, even 16 or 17 to the end, are just guys that you need to do something once or twice a season, right? Like that's what you need them to do. And Andrew Brody, you knew was going to do that for you for the most part, right? Some of these wild flyers we've taken on players, I'm just like, what are we trying to accomplish, right? Like, what is that? And then we could again get derailed on this, watching the club go buy Johnny Russell when they did it, and then do what they did to Johnny Russell. Part of me was like, that's really funny because Johnny Russell was the villain, and we just tanked a year of his career that didn't need to happen. He could have gone anywhere else, and the guy would have gotten the appreciation he deserved. But we're in the playoff game, brass tacks, and he's like, I'm not subbing you in, I'm subbing this kid in. And it was just like, what are you doing? Like,
Yeah, because I subbed out the other kid who wasn't my main guy, who wasn't ready for the big time, obviously, in Caliscan, who flipped out. But then he sends in Wolf, and I'm just like, I agree with you. I think if Johnny Russell had like 300 more minutes,
Yep.
he probably is our leading scorer. I mean,
he probably is, yeah. Which is really damning of the entire roster. Yeah.
it was, but it's just like, come on. And just the idea that that was the other hypocrisy. You got to be able to play defense, but Diogo doesn't have to.
No.
He doesn't yet.
One of the things, so when Christ was the coach, he would do for a lot of the youth club coaches, he would bring them in once or twice a year and just talk to them about like his approach on things. And he was pretty transparent with us one time, and hopefully I don't get in trouble for saying this, because at the time they said keep it in this room. That was 15 years ago now. He was like, Fabian Espíndola knows he's starting on the weekend. It doesn't matter how shitty but it doesn't matter how poor Bobby trains during the week. He's going to start, and he knows it, and I can't control that. He's like, so I'm not going to lie to you and be like every week training, spots are on the line. They're not. They just aren't. And so, like, I would just love, Pablo doesn't have to say it, right? Like, just don't say anything about it. Just be like, went through training, this is the lineup, right? And just go forward with it. It's, again, the gaslighting us of, like, telling us, nah, we fight for these spots, and this is who earned it. And you're watching them and go, like, do the games matter? Because apparently the games don't matter, so.
Yeah, I love Espíndola. He was one of my favorite players.
Dude was a nuts, absolutely nuts person, but great player.
Yeah, he finished it.
Yeah.
So more on this club, this roster, and I would love a 3-5-2 or something along those lines. Not because that's what Crawley plays, but they've got both players. They got Josh Flint on one side. That man, he's starting the offense from the back, but he's got that freedom, and he's one of the three. So I think it can be done. You have to decide. You have to be good in one or both boxes. If you're good in both boxes on defense and offense, you're going to have a great season. But when RSL this last season, the only thing they were good at was in between the boxes. That gets you nowhere. I mean, that gets you the playing game on accident almost. So So what about your thoughts on the players up top? Do they would love to see I would just love to see Gonzalez goes. I mean, if they had to come out with fans pitch in $20 a piece to get him out of here, that might be get a GoFundMe going for RSL to ship out Gonzalez. But what are your thoughts?
It's probably a pipe dream, but like the Millers have enough money to build this ridiculously gigantic baseball stadium and invest all this money. I think they can afford to buy out the guy. And in the absence of that, then it's figuring out what that looks like in the lineup. There's other clubs in this league that they're willing to swallow it and be like, this guy comes off the bench, right? Like San Diego said, Chucky Lozano, granted it wasn't the whole season, but it was like, he's coming off the bench. He's not the right fit. We're going to do that. It hurts. It makes you look really bad. And it points to your general manager and says, like, you missed on this. But it's better to do that and have a style. I thought we played better when he had his injury, but was really like Christ let it slip that he was suspended from the team for a little bit. We played better soccer then, right? I don't know if the results fully reflected that, if I can't remember off the top of my head, but it was like you had players in the spots that needed to be out there, right? Ironically, I think Emeka Anelli, when he was getting the shaft, it was like, put him into that spot. When he gets into those progressive spots, he's a good player there, right? Yeah, we should have a true talented 10 to pair up with Diego, but in the absence of that, use what you have available to you and put the players out there that want to fight for the crest, for lack of a better phrase, but just even want to just go out there and want to perform. Yeah,
Anelli, he keeps getting comparisons, not from not getting gaslight by the RSL front office, but by players, teams that watch him and say, hey, he's a Darlington Nagbe-esque, not exactly like him, but there is something there. People recognize it. I wouldn't be surprised if, he said, I want to go somewhere else. I would. Yeah. I mean, if my value was diminished so much by the club proved how much they didn't value me by the way they treated me this season, I would be looking for greener pastures or a better or different opportunity. So, but are there any players you'd love to see here? I mean, we do have Benteke's a free agent, and he's part of the Blitzer group.
I so
He
for
was
me,
anyway.
he was, yeah. No, now he was with DC and a free agent. I was looking through the Doyle put out an article. He didn't mention RSL in any of like this is a good fit for this player would be a good fit for RSL, which is kind of sad because it's like we need players desperately. Um, I've seen the club kind of transition a lot of where they're sourcing talent from, right? And it's weird because it doesn't feel like there's one again, and I'm going to point back to it with rosy colored glasses. Like before, it was like we knew how we wanted to recruit, we knew what we wanted out of players. Lagerwey missed on a lot, but when he hit home runs, he hit home runs, right? Like Sabarillo for me is one of my favorite RSL players because it was like, no, that is exactly what that team needed right then. Espindola, Javi, a couple other guys that fit into that mold. So I'm not going to name a big name because that's the lazy and easy thing to do. I think they need to go do similar to what they did with Javi and go look at the Spanish second division, go look at the Italian league and the middle clubs, right? And go, who is a good talented player in here that's in that $1 to $4 million range that we can come in and say, okay, we're going to give you a 3 year contract, paid probably more than you're going to be making in Europe, but we think you can execute, right? And if the Blitzer group has the recruiting metrics they supposedly have, you should be able to get good bang for your buck in that. You got to remember, Blitzer's associated with Palace, who is massively overperforming what they've done historically. So it's just like, hey, can we get any of that over on this side of the pond and give us some guidance on who we should be, executing for?
Why haven't we used any of the Blitzer's connections?
I, it's a conundrum to me. Blitzer isn't a majority owner in the club is the only thing I can figure of like what potentially is limiting that. And I don't know how much he's a majority owner in a lot of the clubs he's associated with, right? Like he's a private equity guy through and through that it's like, yeah, I own some of that and some of that and some of that
He
and I make
doesn't
money
want
on
to
it.
be the majority owner, it looks like.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's just fine. I think I was extremely hopeful that that would execute on something because that's if you do that right, it looks really cool, but also you get into some like financial fair play issues like they're dealing with Palace and all the stuff that they had to deal with. But I would love us to be able to tap into that. In the absence of that, it's just like, okay, can you give us your scouting metrics, right? And we'll, Schmidt's kid, Kurt Schmidt is like, he seems to be decently good at his job. Again, one of those like on a Pablo where it's like if I gave him a grade, it would be like between a B and a C. It's like, yeah, you get a passing grade, but you're not doing anything amazing, right? Like, and to me, that's okay. You see out your contract, and then we look around and see who's else available out there to possibly replace you with.
Yeah, I was going to
Well,
ask you about Kurt Schmid. Sorry to interrupt there, Brendan, because
it's okay.
we've been going hard on Pablo, but I had a higher opinion of Kurt Schmid at the start of the season than at the end. Although it was a rough in between, rough postseason, but it looked like Olatunji Cruz has some talent. He may not be
Mhm.
a fit, but he's definitely talented, and
Right.
he's at least putting in effort. And who knows, maybe if he makes that PK and gets off the schneid, he has some confidence and is a little different. But I'm not totally sold. I agree with you. I'm just not totally sold that this whole setup from whatever Jason Christ's role is all the way down is who we need.
Yeah. No, because Christ has, as much stock as he does here, I'm willing to give it some time, but I'm on a very personally just like a short lease of like when whatever it matters for Patrick saying like, oh, Pablo out. Like that means nothing. But like I'll give Christ an opportunity here, see what it looks like as a fan and just say, okay, let's see what we want to do. He seems to be doing the talk of like we're gonna establish a culture. Granted, the what like we're gonna compete for trophies and like redefining success really scares me because those are typically things you say when you're like lowering expectations. So it was like, oh, what are we just? If there was
We're not
one
going to win
thing,
them. We're going to compete for them really, really hard.
well, not even that. We're the Washington Generals, is what it feels like right now, right? Like, come watch other teams play us is the like selling metric of the season so far. And I joked with my brothers about it. I was like, are we fans of RSL or are we just like happen to be fans of all these other teams that show up here and they get to play at RSL? It really feels like the Harlem Globetrotters are coming into town wearing a Miami shirt this week and then an LA shirt that week. And it's like I would like to compete. And again, we don't have to compete with them on the same metric. We don't have to put in big players and spend that way. I wouldn't recommend that to the Millers. I would recommend you go find a talented player. Or if you're going to take a swing, take a swing on a Mexican player because that's just such an untapped part of this population in this valley, and like really get people excited. One of the most exciting games I've ever been to was when Cuauhtemoc Blanco played here, right? And I hated the guy, but that stadium was ready, right? And when what's his name, the other Mexican that played for LA, when he came to town, it was like, yeah, like they want to come see this dude play. This is really cool.
Chicharito.
Chicharito, and then Carlos Vela was the other one, right? Where it was just like they love that dude. Get him out there. And I loved watching him, right? Like, I don't love Chicho scored this hilarious face goal for United, right? And it was like, it's awesome to see him out there playing. Vela was an incredibly talented dude. That it's really funny that Messi had the season he had, and he still couldn't meet Vela's numbers, right? Like, the dude was insanely talented. So, but no, getting back to your question, I think Kreis has an idea of what he wants to try and do with it. I worry there's a disconnect between him and Schmidt and Pablo, and you saw that through the season, like you said, where it's like the players they brought in is not what Pablo wanted, obviously, and so then you're just always off. The squad feels weird. You got a guy like Piol or a guy like Agata out there, and it's just like this isn't what this team needs. They seem like decent dudes, and half, Agata especially. It's like that's a good soccer player. He's just not this team, right? And Piol was like that should be on a Monarchs contract. What are you doing with this contract, right? So.
Yeah, there were some players like Lachlan Brook. He seemed
Yeah.
like he came over, and it's interesting. We don't go to enough practices or hardly to really know the dynamic there, but I do think it's interesting that it's hard to break into Pablo's starting lineup. I mean, you sign the defender of the year in the USL, Lambert, and you just, he just, I don't know what he did, but he pissed somebody off and got one opportunity, and he got loaned out for 2 seasons in a row. He
Right.
had to be. I mean, he was the defender of the year, Diego Luna. We haven't even talked about him. Like, he was not the offensive player of the year. I mean, he had a long way to go when he came here. So it's really interesting how you break through the gauntlet of whatever the universe has in front of you to get to start with Pablo. But
Yeah, no,
yeah,
his shtick is, again, probably not a kind word, but like I feel 5 years of that, if I was a player, would get really old really fast. Of like, we're gonna do this, we're gonna work really hard, and all these philosophical things. And you can tell the players beg at times for a tactician, and not the Freddie Juarez type, but like a true tactician of like, I thought you'd like that one. Like, we're gonna truly like do some real stuff out there, right? So
I have a lot of respect for Jason Kreis, and I only had the respect after his acceptance speech of him becoming president or whatever, because when he said that he felt that Pablo is still a young coach, it was kind of like that. Oh, sweet! Finally, somebody's going to go into this family of like, what are we doing here? And he's already got an identity. He's already got, he's already been through this, and it's kind of like he's coming back in to spank him on the butt to get them all to line up and like do what needs to be done. But it's kind of sad that like that's what we needed when the people that are in the roles already are supposed to be doing that.
yeah, no, it feels like it's a very tight knit group over there that's been kept together, and they've been through a lot of stuff, right? Like I cannot imagine having worked for some of the groups that they've worked with and the stories that have come out, but it desperately needs someone to come in and kind of shake it up a little bit, right? And it feels weird that it's a retread with Christ. Hopefully that doesn't blow up in our faces, but it's like, all right, if there's somebody here that knows this culture well, it's Jason Christ.
yeah, it worked so well for Mosisi when he came back. So
Right?
I'm a little tired of the retreads. I think the assistant coach, the head coach pipeline has been. I would love to see them go out and find, like whether it's a player or even a coach from, from Mexico or
Right.
some of the lower leagues around the world. But who knows? Hopefully, Pablo will be successful. We don't have to worry about it. But
Yeah. No, I'd love to eat crow on it.
oh, absolutely. Excuse me. So, do you have any? We talked about players you want to bring in, like big names. Is there any players in the league that you would think would be great fits? I was thinking, I think Ilie Sanchez is a free agent again.
Yeah, not him. And then I mentioned it before, Chucky Lozano. If he's on the outs with San Diego, make that phone call, right? And move that because the guy would move the needle here from a And Lagerwey would always hit on this. Like your DP can't just only be talented on the field. He needs to, at least in MLS 2.0, they needed to move the needle from a eyeball perspective. And I think Lozano checks that box pretty well. So,
And sell shirts, right?
well, yeah, exactly, right. And for nothing else, I'd make phone calls to San Diego if that. I don't know if I would move Diego Luna, but you gotta be willing to make look at different things and say, okay, how do we want to pull this off? If they're
What
roots with it.
what are your thoughts on Diego Luna? He had a really, really interesting season with Real Salt Lake this year, and
Mhm.
just in general, his national team. It was really interesting. What are your thoughts on him? Is he really that good?
He's really good. Is he really that good? Is a pretty hard question. I think the World Cup, if he gets in the roster, which it feels like he will be now, the question will be will he make any of the game day 18s or however they're going to split it up and get time. Um, I thought if he was going to move with all the media attention he was going to get, it made the most sense this last summer. In the absence of that, for him personally and for the club, it makes more sense to wait until the World Cup's done. Hopefully, he has a really good showing there and does well. He obviously cooled off after the first half of the season. I think there's a lot of factors that go into play with that. And some of it's him. You could tell it wasn't necessarily like hero ball full on that he was doing out there, but he wanted to do stuff every time he got the ball, which is a double-edged sword where it's like, young players especially, suffer to it of like, I'm going to get the ball and I'm going to beat three dudes in front of me. And when they do that, we all love it, right? Like we absolutely love it. We're like more of that. We want players that put their head down, that are a little bit of selfish player and go execute their thing. But when it doesn't work, it's extremely frustrating, especially when there's like a dude 7 yards to their left, it's wide open, and he could just make a wall pass with, right? And so for me, Luna, I would give him a pass on the second half of the season with what else was going on. I don't know if that's necessarily fair, but the guy did everything that Pablo asked from him, changed his personal game and brand quite a bit to fit that, which says a lot about him as a player and as a person, and then tried to take on the personality of the team. You could tell he wanted to be the face of it, right? And at times that was, again, to his own detriment, but I'm a fan of this, is what I'll say at the end of it. Like I think it's worth it. And I think we have 6 more months with him probably if everything works out well, and we should be happy for that, right? Like that's being a fan of bigger clubs and smaller clubs, you start realizing how this ecosystem works, and you should find success and be happy for those players that, grow from RSL. Watching Carlos Salcedo, which is probably a poor example, but watching him then go play at bigger clubs, it was like, that's cool. That kid played here and now he's doing that, right? Like watching that growth, we should be excited for that. We should also want the club to profit from that and not lose those players. But yeah.
David Ochoa.
Yeah, he was not a good example. No,
I was really hoping that David would stick. I think he had a great opportunity at the LAFC, but they didn't renew him. He's on.
yeah,
But I always want people to be successful, if not here, somewhere.
right.
Not trying to run them down, but it is interesting how the players that come through here, and it's always interesting. It's like, man, Milan Alaski. I mean, why? It's interesting when they figure it out. That's
Right.
the fascinating part to me. Is like some players never figure it out. They have it all. They've got the talent. They just nothing clicks, or maybe injuries or something. But then it's great to see players like Milan, who goes back home. Or he was playing in Sweden or wherever he was.
Right. Yeah.
Then comes back and just tears it up. And I don't know what San Diego was thinking getting rid of him, unless he really wanted to move because he came in and scored 4 goals in one game. And
No,
of course he did.
he's a weird player. He reminds me of, and it's not a apples to apples comparison. He reminds me of Chicho in that like the guy doesn't seem to stay at the same place very long, which can be a red flag of like, hey, maybe he's noisy in the locker room, creates some friction where he doesn't need to. But you can't dispute that on the field he does this thing, right? And sometimes, as much as like Christ was all about like the team is the star, that was frustrating when we kept losing to teams that had stars, right? And it was like we could use a little bit of that arrogance, right? Like I don't want a full Zlatan on the team, but I wouldn't mind somebody who goes out there and is like, no, I'm going to score 12 goals this year, right? Like give me the damn ball, I'm going to put it on that. And we had that with Chicho, and it fell apart. But like I think the team has to find that dynamic where it fits.
Yeah, I'm. It's interesting. Maybe it's just because being here and in this, the Utah Jazz and this whole culture with the early success with Real Salt Lake through 2009. And I'm more of I want to see a club that has multiple players that play well together, that you don't need to rely on a star. It'd be great to have a star, but if you had somebody that had the talent and they understood that, getting an assist is, or making that pass that starts a counter is just as important as getting the goal. That's the way I love to watch soccer, is when it's a whole team effort. Not that, wouldn't love to have Leon Messi on our club, on our team, but
Right.
at the same time, I love that dynamic of being a team sport.
No, and that to me that says culture, right? Like that's what you want. And the team is you bring up the Jazz, culture can cut both ways. You can have a really negative culture like the Jazz have right now, where it's like the whole point of this club is a Ryan Smith fun project where they tank and they get a new draft pick and then they just cycle, right? The Cleveland Browns, the Buffalo Bills, right? Like culture can get really bad for you that you just can't get out of its shadow. And I worry with the trajectory the club's on. It's already started to plant the seeds of like, well, we're just a club that once it has talented players, it sells them on and we don't strike on it. If you look at like an Ajax model in Europe and stuff like that, there's a way to do both those things. You go win when it's good, you sell, and then the next 2, 3 years you're building. But like everybody in the club knows that's what we're gonna do, right? Like we're gonna build talented players that then you can go watch play in the EPL, in La Liga, in Spain, wherever, right? And it makes it fun. And I wish kind of one of the things I wanted to hit on earlier was like the club is really lacking from a academy through the Monarchs to the first team, right? Like it does not feel like there's bridges there, and they've talked about that ad nauseum, and I still don't feel like it's there. Gozo was like because what's his name got hurt, Gozo got his opportunity. It wasn't like no,
Martin.
there's a thought here, right? Yeah, exactly. There's not a thought here of how we grow players into that, and that's hard on Pablo. Don't get me wrong; these are teenagers, children in a lot of ways, right? But I want to see that growth because I love like watching Gozos. Like, no, the kid's from Saratoga Springs. He's out there playing. When you watch the kids from like that guy grew up in Farmington, right? Like that's so cool to watch that happen. I want to see more of that, and I'm more attracted to that. And if they can win while they're doing that too, that's awesome.
Well, they'll make more money, right?
Yeah,
It's one
exactly.
thing to sell your players from the academy, sell them from the Monarchs. You're selling potential, but if you have a young player that plays 2 or 3 seasons with you and you lift a cup or two, that's you're only going to make more money and have a stronger club moving forward. But I don't know what the answer is there either, because the step from MLS Next to Major League Soccer is just too big
Right.
at the moment. But I would love to see that as well. I would love to see them actually develop players. I mean, you can have they've got the mantra, winning through development, but let's let's try do at least one or the other. They aren't doing either at the moment.
Exactly. No, it's
So
frustrating.
now, what about your thoughts on soccer in general in the United States? The big announcements made. MLS is moving to the international schedule, which on first blush looks like it might not be a great idea. But when I would notice that they said they were quick to say that 91% of the games are already playing, they would be playing, would they already play?
Right.
Because
I the hard part is like it gets cold here, right? And it is one thing to say like, well, we already play in December. They played 1 or 2 games in December, right? You played in November a little bit. We've been out to those games in February and at the Rio Tinto, right? And it's or America's first field, whatever you want to call it. Like if it's a meaningful game, I'm willing to go out there and freeze my, huevos off. But if it's just like, hey, it's the 12th game of the season and we're playing Kansas City, who also sucks, like I think that's going to be such a detriment to the club and to the league, and it's going to be really hard. I think it's really overstated this alignment with contracts that align with international stuff. Granted, the people who are saying it are much smarter than me, so maybe there's way more to that. But it was like, no, players move in the winter in those windows. You just have to pay a different price for it. And I get really frustrated when they talk about like, oh, it's the rest of the world plays in the schedule. They don't, right? Like there's other leagues that follow the MLS model. Brazil kind of does their own thing. You got to remember Mexico does its weird thing, right? And they seem to be able to do it just fine. MLS just again, like US soccer, it feels so much like it wants to change things so much as opposed to just like, no, just be you and do what you want to do, right? And execute on that. And it makes it hard as a fan to like buy into it. Euro snobs I'm a European soccer fan, don't get me wrong, but like the Euro snobs on it, you're not going to win them over by changing the rules to align with it. Like it was dead on arrival. They just, whatever the excuse is, they will find an excuse to not like MLS. So don't cater to them, right? Like make the brand of what it is yours.
Yeah, the Euro snobs, they'll just constantly move the goalpost
Yeah.
on, oh, well, it's this and that. And then, once, USL dominates with promotion relegation, which my money says they never do, but
Well, there's not a league in the world that would do promotion and relegation in modern times. That's not to say that's the right answer, but like they tried to do the Super League for a reason because they were all like, we lose money hand over fist if we introduce that, along with like the revenue sharing and everything, right? Like they've introduced their financial fair plays, but they're conveniently aligned of like, well, as long as you're making this much money, you can then spend that much money. So that it's like self-fulfilling in a sense, right? Like all it did is stop newcomers from coming in and blowing it up from a spend perspective. It's like the Newcastles have a really hard time catching up. The cities would have had a hard time in catching up. It's built to like, okay, Madrid's going to keep their spot. United's going to keep their spot. Liverpool's going to keep their spot. We're going to make it really hard for them to fail. Granted, United finds ways to fail, but we do what we do. Hey man, I don't say that with any pleasure, right? Like they are a mid-table team. Maybe they'll qualify for Europe this year. I don't know. There's games like today where you're like maybe, and then there's games like last week where you're like, how are we tying West Ham? Are you serious?
well, Everton
Been a
almost.
great guest. I just want to say thank you. Here at the RSL Random Fan, we love you. Thanks for stopping by. No more questions. We're good. So you got to give it to. Okay, I'm going to defend my team real quick.
I'm a United fan too, man. I didn't wear my United stuff today because Milan was playing, but I would have.
So the problem is, you go from Fergie, who is quote unquote like the best manager to ever do it, do all that. You have the greats: Rooney, Scholes, Giggs, Ronaldo. I mean, Tevez. I mean that was like when I was like really Man U. When Ronaldo and Tevez were working together, I was like, this is my team. But then you have ownership who constantly drive that stigma of like, oh, we're the best, but yet they don't want to do their part. You get Man United 10, 15 years later, and that's where we're at. But Ruben Amorim has the chance, or is probably the Moses of the EPL, and he is going to part all the hate and all the negative and send Man U to something above 10th place, I would say. Because I think we're in 6th right now after the Wolves match that we just played.
Yeah. They're a club that, just like RSL, culture can go both ways.
Yeah, well, they were protesting. They waited 15 minutes to go to their seats because they were protesting ownership. But it's like, if Man U were able to sell it fully to like get rid of Ineos too, because I don't really like the whole Ineos thing. But if they sell and they do it right, like they could be great again. But it's
my favorite Man U story is, I think, as you mentioned it, Brent, is where they wouldn't let the team go to the Tampa Bay, the Glazers own Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and they wouldn't let Man U go see their facilities because they're so far and away better than the Man U facility.
State of the art, like brand new, like the way they treat their players is just crazy. And when they came in, they wouldn't allow them to see it. Yeah, like that's how stupid it is.
If I was the Glazers, I wouldn't either. I'd be like, no, they milk United just for the revenue, right? Like, and billionaires be what they are, right? Like you can't blame them on that. It's like, yeah, that's if I had the money, I would go probably buy United or Milan too. Granted, I would like to keep my money, so I wouldn't buy a sports team. Like all you do is lose money when you do that and get a terrible perception. So.
Yeah, Old Trafford is Senior Trafford right now. Like, it is so run down, it's terrible.
Nah.
But anyway, sorry to sidetrack.
No, you're good.
Yeah. Oh, what was I going to say? Oh, well, how about really do appreciate you giving Brennan some flack, but also joining us tonight. What about some favorite kind of roundup, finish with some of your favorite Real Salt Lake memories, maybe a couple favorite players and maybe a couple favorite games, whether that's home or away. What are some of those you've had?
Good question. Memories. So I went up to the 2009 game in Seattle with my dad. That was a lot of fun. My little brother was supposed to come with us too. He got food poisoning and had to stay at my aunt and uncle's house. And
Chuckarama? Was it Chuckarama?
it wasn't Chuckarama. We didn't get the Arabe Unida special. It was, I think it was even worse. It was some like truck stop on the way up to Seattle, and then poor kid was just puking his guts out. Um, that was a ton of fun. My wife, when I was, converting her into the sport in 2013, she came with me and my dad out to Portland, which is an amazing road trip. You go there and you're like, hey, that's what it's like to have an organized supporter section and a thought process behind it. And it was really fun to beat them. Also went to the final that year. I still have frostbite in one of my toes from that game because it was so goddamn cold. Um, and then probably my top favorite moment in this club was 2011. It sucks, right? But that Champions League final, that stadium, that was a very unique day, and it was really cool. I also graduated college that day, so it like had a double really cool stuff, but like really neat atmosphere, really cool game. Sucked we couldn't get over the hump, but really loved it.
Yeah, Fabian. I think he had an open net he missed.
Yeah,
Or an easy one.
and that was
that's
one.
Oh, sorry. Who's your favorite RSL player from the past? Not this era, but the past. Who's your favorite?
Sabo.
Besides Beckerman.
Sabo. Yours is Beckham.
Besides
I love
Beckerman.
Sabo. Yeah, no, I love
Yeah,
Sabo.
Sabo?
Yeah, the dude, and it was kind of his personality too. Like he just had this I don't give a expletive personality, not in the same way like Beckerman did, where like he would hit you about it. Sabo just kept to himself. He lived out in Harriman, and I would see him sometimes, and the dude would just go like walk his dog, and that's just how he was. And then he'd go score a bunch of goals over the weekend, and it was just like this dude is so cool. Like I loved him. Like when everybody talks about the Mount Rushmore, he's always that fourth one on there of who you rotate through. If it's him, cry like whatever. For me, it's him, right? Like he's one of those first ones on there. That he still is the leading goal scorer on this club says a lot, and yeah.
Well, yeah, that says a lot about the
Yeah.
club.
Yeah, more about the club than maybe him, but
Was it
we'll give him
19
the
goals
benefit.
or something like that?
Yeah.
But yeah, he was. What I love about Sabo is that he continued to play. I mean, he played like 10 years
Yep.
after. He just went down to Costa Rica and just continued to score goals and play the game, which I thought was pretty fascinating. Any players you really were surprised that you didn't do well? Is there something that on Real Salt Lake, a Johnny Menendez type?
Burrito was a
Matt
player.
Crooks.
Yeah, Matt. Well,
Oh no!
Johnny Russell.
Yeah.
I mean, any
You
of the
go-
boyfriends.
I was a Matt Crooks hater early on. I thought the guy like just got lost in the system, and then I came around to him. And Grant, I'll give you credit on that. Like it took time, and we're seeing what happens when you don't have players like that, glue players especially, right? So, no, but Burrito Martinez was one for me that like the guy had all the talent in the world, and there'd be flashes of it, and then it just didn't work. Johnny Menendez was never going to work in this league. Anybody who saw the guy, like literally saw him in person, was like, he's just going to get bossed around. It's the same thing with Diogo, where it's just like they can't physically play in this league. They're just going to get hammered. There's still that mentality of bigger dudes of just like, I don't care if you're talented, I'm going to hit you, right? And Messi's played enough in those type of styles that he can get away with it. These other guys, they can't. It doesn't work for them. So he's one. And then there was, I'm trying to blank on it. Remember when Javi came, he wasn't the big name player of the two that came in. And I remember the guy was
Mantija?
yeah,
Matias
it was-
Mantija.
and I remember watching that dude, and it might have been I had long hair at the time too, and I was just like, man, I love that dude's flow. It's like great, but like, it was one that was just like, oh, that sucks. It didn't work out. We kept this Javi guy, and I remember being in '07, being like, Javi's all right, but man, we should have kept Matias. And now at that age, like sour milk. So
Any thoughts on what are your predictions for next season? We'll end there, Patrick. You give us your optimistic or not so optimistic. What do you see for RSL 2026?
I'm a pessimistic person by nature, so probably not the best person to ask on optimism. But I think the World Cup draws a good line in the sand for the club to hopefully do an evaluation and maybe retool things. I'm not optimistic about the first half of the season. There's going to be a lot of variables at play. You've got to somehow keep Diego Luna tuned into the team, but also like his entire objective is like do not get hurt. It would suck so bad to watch him pop an Achilles or something like that in the first half
Oh,
of the
knock on wood
season,
there,
right? Yeah, knock on all the wood in the world, right? So, but you've got to balance that with being like, no, but we still have to compete, dude, right? Like, and he's a good enough kid that it seems like they'll do that. So, I think it's going to be more of the same unless something changes from a personnel standpoint. We're going to hover around that 9-10 spot, and it's going to be frustrating. But if we go in with like that's the expectation. What sucked this last year is like we still all kind of had that belief of like we can still do what we did in the first half of 24, right? And we were all lying to ourselves. Like no, the team just isn't equipped to do that, right? Like we don't have those two incredibly talented players that were carrying a lot of the team. So and that's fine. For me personally, like I've mentioned it before, family's a big thing for me. We went to my dad a bunch of stuff. I take my son to all the games and stuff. So if nothing else, he and I always have a good time. Like going to freezing cold games, he's not stoked about that at all. So we love going to those summer night games and watching fireworks or a drone show, right? And drinking a couple beers. Obviously, he's not. He's 10, but he lets me
I
get
was
beers.
just saying,
He teases me. No, but like it's good. So
he's a Pilsner guy.
all the duels, man. He's heavy on them. So
Doyle rules.
Only one. I only let him drink one.
Yeah, until he gets
Somebody's got to drive home.
nah, he knows if it's going to be a good soccer game if dad comes back with 2 hands of chiladas, which you can get on the west side again now, which I love. So,
Oh, really?
Nice.
yeah.
Well, Patrick, we can't thank you enough for joining
Hold
us.
on, I got one more question.
Okay,
I got
go ahead.
one more
Oh,
important
boy.
question.
All right.
Okay. I'm just going to ask this. You have to be honest. No one's feelings are going to be hurt. Who is your favorite host of RSL Random Fan Podcast?
You don't have to.
So there's
Just
me.
say Tyler. He's not
mustache,
here.
I still have hair. Tyler, bald. He's got glasses. Hates referees. And then you got Brandt. I mean, the guy didn't even grow up playing soccer. He told my mother, "Hey, he's not going to play soccer unless he's born with no arms."
That's what I used to say.
But who is your favorite host of RSL Random Fan Podcast?
I'm gonna take the cop out and just say like you all serve a purpose on this. I've actually joked with Brandt about this before. Like you all balance each other really well. Tyler brings in his hot takes sometimes, and then Brennan, you'll pull him out, and Brandt pulls you all back together, and it works out. So I think you guys have a good thing going. And yeah, Tyler's the best.
Lies.
I'm gonna that will be edited out.
Yeah, we're gonna cut that out. We're gonna put
right.
Brandt Goebel.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining,
Thank
Patrick.
you guys. Yeah,
And we'll definitely have you on again sometime
I'd
if
love
you're
it.
game.
Yeah, no, I'd love it. And love what you guys do. Thank you very much for doing it. I wasn't joking before. I listen to you guys every week whenever you put out. So it's awesome.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
Yeah, have a good one.